So Rolex have done something pretty interesting with the Oyster Perpetual. Now, the Oyster Perpetual is sort of the entry-level watch in terms of Rolex. It's coming in at around, 6,000 USD, depending on the size and the spec, which isn't really an entry-level price for a watch, but in terms of Rolex, it's entry-level. But don't let that fool you into thinking that the Oyster Perpetual is somehow a bad watch. It's actually an incredible watch. It's been around for a very, very long time. It's a staple in the Rolex lineup, and it's a watch that's pretty attainable. But regardless of how big somebody's collection is or how many watches they have, the Oyster Perpetual always seems to be a watch that people love to wear and collect. And I think a big part of that is how Rolex have handled the color scheme and the rotation of dial colors that go along with the Oyster Perpetual. Every few years, Rolex releases a new set of colors for the Oyster Perpetual dials and discontinues the previous color set. With that being said, there's usually a couple that end up staying, like the staples, the sort of white, black, silvers, and then a couple of colors in between that sort of stay through different phases and will end up getting phased out at a different point. Now, this year, Rolex have opted to discontinue a pretty bright set of colors that they had going on, which were the coral, the Tiffany blue, and the yellow. And they've replaced them with a very different set of pastels. The new colors we've got, which are lavender, beige, and my personal favorite, which I don't think I'm alone in, is pistachio. And in previous years, certain colors have only been available on certain dial sizes. It often turns out that the more feminine colors go on the smaller watches and the more manly colors go on the more manly watches. And when they launched the colors this year, they sort of did the same thing. They made the 28 millimeter the face of the lavender, and then I think it was the 36 millimeter was the beige, and then 41 was the pistachio. So I was sort of under the impression they were going to be keeping certain colors for certain sizes, but after going on to spec out a new Oyster Perpetual with these color dials, it turns out that you can actually get any of the colors on any of the dial sizes, which I think is great. It's not limiting anyone to a color that they want and a certain size they can't get. I mean, it doesn't really make sense to limit which size has which color, in my opinion. I'm not sure if there was some sort of scarcity thing going on there, but I think it's great that we're allowed to have any dial color on any size now. Now, when I was speccing out one of these Oyster Perpetuals, I noticed that there are still a few dial color and size variations that haven't been discontinued. For example, the 36 millimeter still has the turquoise blue option available, and it's not available in 41. Whether or not you'd actually be able to get one is a different story, I guess. They've also decided to keep the classic Rolex green option for a little bit longer, which is great because obviously that's a really popular option. I think anytime Rolex does a green face, it's going to be popular. Now, again, who knows if you'll actually be able to get these colors that are still available. There's always the scarcity game to play with Rolex. But if you are interested in getting one of these colors, maybe now's the time to do it before they end up being discontinued completely. Now let's look a little closer at the new dial colors. So we've got this lavender dial, which to me looks really great. It's quite unique in terms of what Rolex usually release for colors. Now it's obviously positioned as a ladies color, being on the ladies version of the Oyster Perpetual, but I would definitely wear one of these lavender dials on a larger size like the 36, which is why I'm glad that Rolex stopped deciding who can wear which colors. It can be hard to tell what these colors actually look like in person from the images. They're often very different when you see, the actual dial versus just a picture of it. But luckily, my girlfriend was at Watches and Wonders this year, and she got to go hands-on with the lavender dial Oyster Perpetual. She sent me some pictures and some videos, and she said it looks even better in person than it does in pictures. So I'm excited to finally get to see one in person, hopefully soon. This is a great color from Rolex, and I think it's going to be highly sought after, especially as people start to see them more and more in person. And down the line, these are going to be, I think, highly collectible. And, right as soon as the demand starts to peak, Rolex is going to discontinue the color and move on with the next one. So if you do want this, I think, you're probably going to want to get on this sooner rather than later, so you're not having to pay secondhand prices for this. And personally, I think this is a great color and probably a collectible colorway. Next up, we've got the beige, which to me looks almost like a matte version of a gold dial. It's a good looking color, and I think it could be a fun one to dress up for summer with maybe a matching beige linen suit or something along those lines. But I don't think that this color is as unique or as different from the other two colors that Rolex have released this year. Therefore, I'm not sure if this one's going to be quite as collectible or as highly sought after as the other two. I do think that the beige actually goes under the radar a little bit better than the other two. The purple and the green will sort of stand out on your wrist, even though they're pastels. The beige is just going to blend in easier. It's going to go with outfits easier. So if you're looking for a daily wear, out of the new Oyster Perpetual colors, the beige is definitely the best choice. Now, like many people, my personal favorite is the pistachio. Anytime that Rolex does a green dial, they're going to be popular, and for good reason. Yes, it's trendy, but just Rolex does green well. It is their color. It's also my favorite color, so this was an easy pick for me. Like the lavender, this is different than what we usually see on a Rolex dial, though. They don't usually do these pastel colors. They're usually pretty solid colors, so it's nice to see something that really stands out in the Rolex lineup. Now, depending on the size model, like I mentioned before, you do still have the option for the classic Rolex green. So for green dial lovers, we have a lot of options right now. Now, based on the data of other green dial Rolexes, this is likely going to be the most collectible and the most sought after of the 3 dial colors. So if you can get your hands on one at retail, I would highly suggest it, as down the line, these are going to be really collectible and will be highly sought after on the secondary market. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, the Oyster Perpetual plays an interesting role in Rolex's lineup. It's the entry-level choice. It's the cheapest of the Rolex options. However, it sort of plays this role as a colored swatch for high-end collectors. With Rolex releasing new dial colors and discontinuing the old ones, collectors continue to buy up these new dial variations. And they often buy them because they like them for daily wear. And in my opinion, the Oyster Perpetual is one of the best daily wear options. It's a really reasonable price point for what you're getting. It's obviously an amazing watch from Rolex. And because it doesn't have a crazy price tag on it, you don't have to worry about it as much. And it lets you fly under the radar a little bit more than something like a gold day-date will, for example. Now, if you're out wearing a turquoise blue Oyster Perpetual or the new lavender dial, it often says to watch people or collectors that, hey, I actually have quite a few other watches at home. This is just what I'm wearing as my sort of daily wear. Now, Rolex could easily sort of sweep the Oyster Perpetual under the radar in terms of new releases. They have a lot of watches to focus on, and with the new edition of the Land Dweller, there's even more. But we see Rolex continue to pay some attention to the Oyster Perpetual. Again, we're getting more unique dials and really well done dials. And we also have the most size options of any of the other Rolex lineup is available on the Oyster Perpetual. So Rolex is paying attention to what people want, and they're giving them optionality in these watches. So what do you think? Do you like the new Oyster Perpetual colors? Which one's your favorite? Or do you think that Rolex is sort of lazy by just updating the colors every couple of years and hoping people will buy the new one? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.